Hello and welcome to another transfer show here on Anfield Index with myself, Trev Downey, and of course my good friend Dave Davis, who is the brains of the outfit when it comes to all the information here. And Dave, we did a show on Friday, mate, and we couldn't even give ourselves a week, could we? Because the rumors, stories, speculation, it continues apace, and it's going to, isn't it, with this new short window just looming on the horizon.
Yeah, I can't believe between Friday evening to right now where we are on Tuesday, how much is developed, how much is coming out. And in simple terms, I think it's going to be insane from now right the way through till June. Everyone is clamoring up until that to get that transfer window one, let's call it, all set. So, yeah, I think it's just going to be mental for a while.
Will you remind people as well of the duration of that short window that's going to open for a little while? What is that, and when does it run from and to? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's almost like it's from the 1st of June till I think the 10th of June, isn't it? It's for the club. Officially, it was supposed to be for the Club World Cup, but obviously everyone's on board it in the Premier League, so it's open for everyone. Then it shuts. They have like a 14-day, a 10-day break, something like that, and then they come back again. It's very, very bizarre, but you've got to admit, it's making stuff exciting right now.
Oh, it sure is. And listen, we should flag up. There's going to be stuff that will get people vaguely excited on the show tonight. There's going to be stuff that's going to leave people worried, a bit gutted. We have the usual mix, folks. That's what a transfer window looks like. They don't tend to be completely all the way you want them. But let's get started with the first story, which is a very good news story, no matter what way you wrap it up. We're getting a very good footballer in Jeremy Frimpong for a decent price for those people who are amateur accountants and like to do the books in their spare time. And for people who are worried about that side of things, also he appears to be a very, very capable attacker, which again is great, lends us another sort of string to the bow. You know, you watched last night, don't you, Dave, as some of the lads really struggle to take advantage of opportunities that they've been given to show why they should be playing. And you understand that it's end of season, the whole general atmosphere is a bit off, they're not being surrounded by the best players, but guys are not standing up and grabbing those opportunities. So you can get a player like this in, I'm all for it. Tell us the details, where we're at in terms of knowledge at this stage on the Frimpong deal.
Yeah, we're all kind of we're waiting for the Axeline, aren't we? We're waiting for the photos. We're waiting for the media shoot. As far as we understand it, it's all been agreed. Liverpool are, sorting the release clause, the medical's been done. It's just waiting for this to be confirmed, which we're expecting whenever it is. We can't really say it's today, tomorrow. As a few patch journals are saying, it's just waiting to see. But it is positive. It has been a good week on the right back situation, hasn't it? Because Jeremy Frimpong set to come, Connor Bradley's renewed, and it's right to be excited about having that pace to burn, let's say, on the right hand side. It was a nice little assist from Connor Bradley, wasn't it, last night at the same time as well? So I'd understand why fans are excited, but bring it on, Trev? The summer of 84 and 30, eh?
Yeah, summer of 84 and 30 is exactly where I'm at mentally as well. Poor old 66 looked a little bit all at sea, didn't he, last night in the wake of a defeat where the fans were celebrating as the champions that they are. And it was, I would imagine, quite a weird experience for that kid. Maybe a little bit of an element of what have I done here? Or maybe just an element of why aren't I the center of attention, as some of us are beginning to suspect might be the issue with him anyway. As we move on, let's get the other story that's going to get most people shouting and screaming in the chat room as well. And that is the story around Florian Wirtz. And whether people like it or not, it remains a live possibility until it doesn't. Always the likelihood was that Bayern get what Bayern want, and perhaps even Florian Wirtz gets what Florian Wirtz wants. And most big players want to go to Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich usually get whatever the hell they want. So, of course, that's a huge, huge, huge likely outcome. But Liverpool, it would appear, Dave, are still in it.
This is really important to say. not one single person on the Liverpool side has shot this down at all. It's all kind of carefully guarded in the phrasing, isn't it? That we're in, the money's there, we're ready to do it. Bayern are the favourites. That's obviously the line that's coming out. It's almost trying to guard that optimism, the potential frenzy, isn't it, realistically? So Liverpool, we said this today, Liverpool have made their pitch. Liverpool confident, they've almost done the best they can. It's going to come down to the player and what Leverkusen do a little bit. Important to say, though, even today, did a Bundesliga show. There's another one coming out as well. So trying to do digging from both sides on this, Trev. The interesting thing from the Bayern side and what a lot of journos on the Bayern side or based in the Bundesliga are struggling with is Bayern's finances. They all keep saying this. Bayern's finances are a bit strapped right now for a couple of reasons. Number one, as we've said, throughout going back to Jan and for a while now, they've done a load of contract renewals, haven't they, recently? Like your Neuer, your Musialas, your Kimmich. So their wage bill's gone up. They've kind of absorbed that a little bit as well. So that they knew that was coming. However, because of the finances, they've shelved, if people can see it on the screen at all, their training ground project, their redevelopment. They've put that on the back burner for at least sort of 12 months there. So, they couldn't start on this 150 million euro project. So that's the first thing. Sorry, the second thing even, isn't it? Number three, remember I said about Leroy Sané the other week? It actually looks now that I suspect he'll go on a free because they're trying to free up that money for Florian Wirtz, aren't they, as well? So they can get Sané off the wage bill. That helps them as well. The other one that quite a few Bundesliga journalists are mentioning as well is they're trying to get Kingsley Coman off the wage bill as well, trying to, saying to all the Saudi clubs, here's our pretty little things, come and take them type of thing. So that's an option. So if they can get those two off the wage bill, that's quite big, isn't it? It's quite a big wage cut, if you want, or a drop down there. So that will help them. But again, as the Bundesliga journos say, and it's quite right, they've still got Upamecano to sort, haven't they? Gnabry, they still want to stay, and he's only got a year left. They'll probably let Goretzka go now by the signs of it for, with a year left to go. But with all that being said, as a lot of the Bundesliga journalists are saying, where are Bayern going to get over 100 million euros from to pay this transfer fee? Yeah, you can get a few off the wage bill, but where's it all coming from? And the big thing, I don't think this will be news to people, is they are expected to go a little bit cap in hand to Adidas, aren't they? And say, we are the original Adidas club. Here's one of your star athletes, Adidas. Make him your star. But as quite a few have flagged, well, hold on. Liverpool have got to deal with Adidas. So Liverpool might just kick up a little bit of a stink on that one at the same time. So there's a lot kind of feels like it's still developing on this one. Liverpool are just nicely poised. The only real thing that I've got on that people haven't seen on the Liverpool side is to confirm, I saw a few saying it, Liverpool have not made a bid yet. Liverpool are speaking to Leverkusen. Obviously, Leverkusen know the situation. It's almost waiting for Bayern to make a bid, and then the real game can start, can't it? We can start paying top trumps because we have got the money ready. We can push this into a top bid wins type of thing. We're quite comfortable in that situation. And for anyone saying, Bayern are a massive club, Bayern are part fan-owned, remember, people, aren't they? The fans have a say in how it's run. And they're always a little bit like, we can't go crazy on certain things. Don't forget, Harry Kane only really got through sort of that agreement because he was seen as the Lewandowski replacement, wasn't he? And Bayern wanted a top striker. To ask them to go even higher for Wirtz just makes you a little bit like, there's a chance here, isn't there? There's a chance. Now, we've got to be careful because Bayern are still favourites, but all that coming into the mix, we're at war, Trev. We are at war with Bayern Munich. And we need to start thinking a bit like Sean Connery in The Untouchables, yeah? They send one of ours to the hospital. We send one of theirs to the morgue. We make this a fight straight up. We put the finances on the table and we make them at worst pay. But we are in this. That is so important to say.
So you're telling me we're scrapping with the Germans, is what you're telling me. We have a situation here, which there's a lot of stories going around, Dave, and I'd like you to give some sort of take on whether you think it's all waffle or not. There is an apparent antipathy between Leverkusen and Bayern Munich, in that Leverkusen would rather not do business with Bayern Munich and strengthen a rival. I don't know how big of a factor that is, but it's been mentioned several times, so I'm throwing it out there. The other one I've heard is that they have a special price for Bayern Munich. If they really want them, they're going to have to pay more than, say, we would. Now, that story got ruined for me by someone pulling out the fact that it was 150 that they were asking for Bayern to pay and that we would have to pay around 100. That was so on its face laughably stupid that there would be a 50% differential that I just thought, come on, like make the story make sense. But do you think there's anything in that angle? Because, you know, people will be thinking, people want to have a little bit of hope about stuff. And I know there are loads of you listening to this now, and I know you personally, and you're the biggest pessimists out there. Love you loads. And you don't think there's a hope here and you hate us even talking about it. I'm sorry. Stop listening. What can I tell you? But for those who do like to have a bit of hope, Dave, what do you think about these angles here? They're a little bit less they're a little bit less tangible perhaps, but they seem to have something to them.
Leverkusen hate Bayern Munich. Like, let's not undersell this. Leverkusen hate Bayern Munich. We mentioned on the last show that I think it's Carazzo, the Leverkusen chief exec, has been, you know, publicly critical of Max Eberl, isn't he? Yeah, they can't stand them in that regard. They would far rather sell him abroad. And the other thing that was quite interesting, and not that these things come down to it, but as a few Bundesliga journalists have told us, the Leverkusen fans are being quite vocal, like, please, anyone but Bayern. Like, sell him abroad, like, let him go abroad. Just don't let our star man go to Bayern Munich. So that is a factor, absolutely. It was right, the comment that came on the screen as well. They've had the situation with Kai Havertz where they did lay a ridiculous bill in front of Bayern's face. And they went, we're not paying that. And then offered him lower to Chelsea. And obviously that unfolded that way. And like you, though, that is a factor. I think people have run with that and gone, they'll give us a 50 million euro discount. It's like, I don't think it's not Disneyland Paris, folks, where we're getting like the meals thrown in or anything like that. It doesn't quite work directly that way. However, it's quite clear Bayer Leverkusen do not want to do business with Bayern Munich. We said last week or last Friday we tried not to get too excited. I'm just simmering a little bit with this now, Trev. I've got a little, we're going to be champions on Sunday. These are the types of things. There's a bit of bounce in my step with this. No doubt it will be dead come next show, of course. But as it stands, we can't rule this one out.
And that's all I think most of us want, is to have a little bit of hope there, because he is such a highly rated footballer. I don't know if you saw the desperate efforts, the increasingly desperate efforts of Arsenal fans to distract from Liverpool's winning of the title by just trying in every way they can to shit on anything good about Liverpool. And so Liverpool's involvement with Florian Wirtz was being ridiculed by one clip where he sort of did something not great. And I was like, oh my God, lads, really, that's what you've been reduced to. Long may it last. I find it amusing, as I do all the fellas taking little nibbles at me over the last couple of days on Twitter. Just keep it coming, lads. I will respond to you. I will make sure you see it, and then I'll block you just as you're typing. That's how this works. Keep it up. Kerkez is next, Dave. And Kerkez is of great interest now, because the idea that Kerkez and Frimpong sign on, everyone's been down this road of, well, it's swashbuckling Reds, here we go. And, obviously there will have to be adjustments made to the team in a big way, to the playing style of several different players and maybe the shape. But it was really encouraging to see that this was moving as well. And I think everybody got very excited about it because we were doing business and we were buying good players. They may not be the players that everybody wants, but Frimpong, Kerkez are good players. However, there is a little bit of City sniffing around coming into this story at the moment. What have you heard about Kerkez and the state that's at this stage?
Yeah, I think he's Liverpool's top target. Liverpool are trying to get it done, as many have said. But we kind of spoke about this a while ago, didn't we? The price was always going to be an interesting one, wasn't it? That reported fee that Bournemouth are looking for 45 million, which I think a lot of people, even the biggest Kerkez fans, are like, that is a lot for a left back, isn't it, realistically? Especially when we've talked about the history of what we've paid, how we operate as well. So that comes into the mix. There's kind of half truths in this, is probably the best way I can say it. Info that we had digging around, as we normally do on this, is Liverpool want Kerkez. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But they are looking at alternatives because, as ever, Liverpool always set a price tag and they won't go above it. They know what they'll go up to, but they're not going to go above it. They'll move on quite quickly. And that is why names like Jarell Hatto are in the mix, aren't they, for us and others that are coming up. So you just wonder about this, where it goes. So Liverpool are quite carefully using the media to go, oh, we are looking at alternatives, though. And Bournemouth are responding to go 15 all, to go, well, Manchester City are in the mix as well for a left back, which is, again, it's a half truth. We mentioned before, City have looked at left back, which always seems a bit weird when they've got Gvardiol, Aki, but, hey ho.
Yeah, you see, Dave, do you think the reason City are being mentioned here is because City are the only ones who pay that kind of money for fullbacks? I mean, that's a real possibility, isn't it?
A little bit. The only weird thing that is still there, do you remember about, I'm making up the date, but call it about a month ago or so, I said to you that the info that we've got is Destiny Udogie at Spurs. They're having a good look at him and a left back. And that name again got repeated to me today. And you just wonder well, they are looking at a left back. It's not Kerkez. But again, that's why I'm just describing it as half truths a little bit. It does feel like Bournemouth and Liverpool are trying to use the media to get, what they want and put pressure on and see if they can negotiate a price. I saw someone say the other day as well, though, well, that's stupid because Richard Hughes was at Bournemouth, so he will know exactly what it takes. Well, he's not at Bournemouth anymore, isn't he? He's not in charge of Bournemouth. So he's not calling the shots at Bournemouth anymore. There is no release clause for Kerkez, and considering Bournemouth are going to be embodied by 50 million quid for Dean Huijsen, aren't they? They're in quite a strong negotiating position there as well. So the smart money would still bet on this happening. But it's just one to keep an eye on. I think it's important to say that if this starts to stall, new alternatives become stronger.
Can I ask you something as well? It's been annoying me because we like to delve into all aspects of the story here and see what way this is shaping up from all sides. And there is an account out there called Kerkez Official.
Yeah.
And it's a blue tick. And a lot of people seem to believe it's him. And Kerkez himself, through this account and on other various social medias, has been doing all sorts of coy liking and smiling and knowing winks and all that kind of stuff. And this gets people spun up into a tremendous frenzy. And I can sympathize. So I'm just wondering, do you know about the players' attitude and whether or not we can trust any of these social media things that are very overt, you'd have to say?
Yeah. Yes and no. And now I sound like a Tory politician, to be fair, as I'm answering this. But the info we've got is that Mr. Szoboszlai's had a strong part. He's convinced his good pal to come over, that Kerkez is absolutely happy and wants this move. And that's not being disrespectful to Bournemouth at all. But it's a big jump, isn't it, in football status and playing in the big leagues as well in that regard. So I get that completely. But Bournemouth have got cash. Bournemouth are trying to build themselves, aren't they? They've got their own little multi-club thing going on, haven't they, with Bill Foley and Lorient and all those types of things. So anyone who's thinking that they're just going to roll over and let their belly get tickled, that, by Mr. Kerkez liking every single Fabrizio Romano tweet or Instagram post on it, there's money is going to talk one way or the other. So, yeah, I believe info is that he wants it. Of course he does, for obvious reasons. But money's going to talk, yeah?
I'm going to shuffle things around a little bit because I want to do one more feel-good story before we get to the likely outs and the worrying situations that we have to talk about with Liverpool today. And you do have a story here about how, look, Wirtz is a long shot. And if that doesn't work out, as most people are entirely certain it won't, we obviously maybe are looking for creativity, especially if an awful lot of the players who we think might leave do leave. Creativity is going to be something that's going to be high on the agenda for qualities in recruits. Do we have backups here? Do we have alternatives in that sort of creative player type role? We know we want a striker. We know we're looking at those full backs. We know we'll probably take in a centre half if we can. But that sort of flank player stroke 10 creative type, is there any other backups, any other stories? We've heard Xavi Simons. Is that still floating about?
Yeah, I wish it wasn't. I can't really hide my disgust with this one. I really don't want this to happen. If he does sign, I will have to delete about 67,000 tweets on the topic, to be honest, as well. But yeah, absolutely. Simons is being looked at. And not a new name. Cherki's been watched quite a bit. And before people jump and say they're different players, they play in different positions. Absolutely, not disagreeing with that at all. But Liverpool are looking at creative options. And the other name that we got today, I know we were sending screenshots about it and talking about it before. I'm probably going to pronounce his name wrong, but there's the lad at Shakhtar, Sudakov, so kind of plays an attacking midfielder. He is another one we have had a serious look at as well. So it probably spells the death knell for a certain players, which we'll talk about. But Liverpool are definitively looking to get creativity into that team. Tell you what, Florian Wirtz, he sorts a lot of problems, let's say that.
Yeah, the drop off to Xavi Simons in your head and my head is so spectacular that we'll just now probably have sparked at least one or two people to go on a tear in the chat room talking about how wonderful he is. It's all about opinions, folks, and yours are absolutely as valid as ours for sure. Now we got to get to the stories, I guess, which we'd rather not be talking about, the uncertainties and the exits. Although a lot of people are quite excited by selling some of our players, I must say. Very tricky. It's been a source of great concern. The line gets drawn in the sand in terms of, like, we can't just keep paying big money to keep our current players, or insane money to keep our current players. Very much out of sorts last night. And, but, that could be partially the situation of how about the situation. Is it possible that it's in his head?
This was one where we've almost said it the last few weeks. It's felt like almost not too much more until literally Monday, where we got a bit of info on this. And sometimes we don't want to share info because it's not a good story, really. That it kind of came along the lines, and you'll probably remember it, around, was it October, and Konate were close. And then Kwanzaa signed. We were like, happy days. Ibu's going to put pen to paper. And it just really went quiet, apart from the murmurings of, like, this isn't close and the wages are up and all things like that. Yeah, I don't like this at all, Trev. I'm not going to lie. So the info we got is, obviously, as we were talking, PSG are right in Konate's ear. and PSG telling him, like, come to us, come and be a hometown hero. It is expecting a player to really keep an eye on now after the Champions League final is Marquinhos. That Marquinhos is the subject of a lot of interest from Saudi and other clubs, and is looking at another challenge. And that PSG have got Ibu lined up as come and be our captain, come and be our leader, prime for the next World Cup, be a star in Paris, all those types of things. So they're in his ear. In the other ear, unfortunately, is Real Madrid, because Florentino Perez has got a kind of kink, hasn't he, for good players on a free. That's his type of thing. So he's saying, run it down, or we could get you on the cheap. And essentially what that has led to is what we're kind of hearing around Ibu asking for big money. Because let's be honest, it's not going to be frogs, legs and muscles that PSG are paying, isn't it? It's going to be top dollar at that sense. So naturally, and I'm saying this not in a derogatory way, because I kind of get it. Let's just be clear. Ibu is not a dyed-in-the-wool Scouser. He's loved by all the fans, but obviously he's looking at everything, and his hometown club are making a calling for him. You've got to remember that and add that to the mix as well. So I didn't like that. And then we kind of mentioned it a while ago that everyone's like, we've got to sell him then. I get that. We'll sell him to PSG for big money. Don't get that at all. Why would PSG pay big money? PSG would probably make an offer for Ibu, but they're not going to pay top dollar because they know he's got a year left. What they'll be saying to Liverpool is, he's got a year left, take it or leave it. There's our offer. At which point, Real Madrid will probably match a take it or leave it offer. So you've got that in the mix. And then as one journalist also pointed out, and I thought it was well written, everyone's like, giving the money. If you're 200 grand or so a week for 5-6 years, you are committing 52 million or so to a player that you've probably still got a few injury questions over. You've still got questions that, as last night, and you can't judge it all on last night, don't get me wrong. When VVD isn't there, is Ibu the leader that you need? Is Ibu the top player? Because sometimes when you lose a player in the midfield or attack, you think, we need to rely on him. He'll be the one, that'll step up. Do you have that with Konate, that he will lead the defence? And I know Van Dijk is on another level completely. I get that. But when you package all that together, it's kind of a crappy update, isn't it, really? But we've heard what we've heard. So now you can share our pain.
Yeah, and look, it's interesting to watch the conversation unfold over here to our right-hand side, where you've got people saying there's no way he's leaving, and there's other people saying he's off. Paris is his boyhood club or his dream club or whatever. And the kid himself said something to that effect at one point, which I think somebody referenced as well. And, we always think about him as the heir apparent, the guy who's going to serve alongside Virgil and then suddenly be our main man for a few years as well. But you have to understand the greater sort of picture here, which is Konate's not a Scouser, and if his actual club that he loves the most comes in from, this could really make things very complex indeed. I'm wondering though about what impact that will have on us, Dave, because I'm not hearing us being linked with any other defensive names apart from Huijsen, and that really did feel like a kind of, I won't say opportunist one, but one where you were thinking, well, look, this is a guy who you buy and he's in your team and your squad for years to come doing great things. You can't not be in for him if you're Liverpool. But I'm not hearing any other names. We heard one name, didn't we? The Araujo fella last week. But bar that, it's very quiet this week, Dave, on links in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, with Huijsen, as far as, and we said this before, the plan was always that we understood it, that obviously he would come in, then you've got a good three, but also it puts a bit of pressure on Konate then, doesn't he? Because he doesn't want to spend the season on the bench when he's got the World Cup coming up, not this summer, but the next summer as well. So, we've heard Mark Gay before as well. That seems to have gone quiet. And I'm sure I just saw it in the chat panel there as well. A lot of people alluding to the 70 million Jared Branthwaite rumours and us being in the mix. The problem with that, people, is I'm not saying it's completely a non-starter, but when Liverpool were linked with Jared Branthwaite, Everton were in the dirt. Everton were about to, go into administration and like all the issues they had. So Everton were contemplating a fire sale. Everton have got a new stadium. Everton have got a new owner. Does anyone believe that new owner wants to start the reign properly in the summer by selling Jared Branthwaite to their arch rivals in Liverpool? Like, come on, there's not a chance in hell they're going to sanction that. So it's a lovely idea, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I am intrigued, and I just have a bit of nervousness of how this Ibu situation is going to resolve, Trev, because for me, I want him to stay because it's just like Van Dijk and Konate, that's the title winning partnership. Just keep it. Just get it done. But it's not going to be that simple, is it?
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. And it's just hard to understand why we don't hear these constant links when people know that situation. Like, I mean, that story's pretty well out there that it's a very troubled negotiation. So let's see where it goes. Let's see where it goes. We will no doubt be back to it. Other people who are even closer to being on the way out, like Harvey Elliott. And then we have to move on to another potential exit, which people have not seen coming. The story broke today, I think. And then a potential end of a dream for you and I. So it's all good news here from here on in the Liverpool section. Let's talk about Harvey Elliott, Dave. He spoke last night after the game. People were getting their psychology degrees out and interpreting, and you didn't have to interpret too hard if we're being perfectly honest. But it's not just Harvey, is it? I mean, Jarell Quansah, another player who was, he was okay last night, but a lot of people, they see a mistake and they go, right, he's off, and we don't need him anymore. Just the same as when he was playing well in a really good team, they were saying, no, he's better than Ibrahima Konate, and we'll have him for years. People are fickle. Caoimhín Kelleher has just disappeared out of the news headlines, but he's absolutely on his bike. And we know Darwin Núñez is. And we keep hearing stories about Luis Diaz as well. So talk to us about the Liverpool players who are looking closest to the exit door.
Again, was it about, I want to say about 4 weeks ago, it might be somewhere around there, but we said on this show about Harvey Elliott and him having loads of offers from the likes of Wolves trying hard for him, Newcastle trying hard for him, even Spurs making inquiries. And do you remember how many people were like, nonsense, he's a star boy, they want to keep him, he's going to fight, blah, 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 blah. Look where we are now, because last night, as for anyone who saw the interview on Sky Sports, it kind of had an air of resignation to it, didn't it? If you can't see the screen, as he said, it's about what's best for my career. It's about reflecting and seeing what I can do. I'm here at the moment and I'm focusing on the final game. And if you put those comments together with everything we're seeing and the fact who Liverpool are bidding for as well and trying to get more creativity in the team, it's going to get even harder for Harvey Elliott to get minutes, isn't it? I think that the writing's on the wall with this one. It really is. Jarell Quansah, like you mentioned, absolutely, there's interest in him. The club, I think, have got a big decision to make what they want to do with Jarell Quansah, because the only next thing for Jarell Quansah's development is football, regular football. That's what a young centre-half needs. Is he going to get that? I think there's big question marks around that. Update on Queeve as well. Offers galore. There's a lot of clubs in the Premier League want Queeve and Kelleher. Like, make no bones about it at all. He will have no problem sorting a move. Caoimhín Kelleher's just got to pick where he wants to go to make sure he is number one for his career at the same time as well. So that's in the mix. And boomerang time. Hansi Flick has given his approval to sign Luis Diaz. There's been, in the last 2 days, a number of Luis Diaz articles. Isn't it amazing how Barca get the money from winning the title, and all of a sudden all these stories start like, lads, we're 1-1 again. We're 1-1. Pull the lever. So, a Luis Diaz-based lever. And it is interesting because according to all these reports, which are pretty unanimous from Spain across the board, Liverpool value Luis Diaz at 70 million quid. It's an interesting one, but I don't think we've heard the end. We've mentioned it before. Barca want Luis Diaz. It's Deco especially. It's all about finances and can they do it? This is what it goes on and on each summer. Maybe, just maybe with the title win, this could be a bit different this time around.
I mean, part of me is resigned to losing Luis Diaz because, again, I just don't know if we're going to offer him the money that will make him happy this summer in the same way as the Konate situation is, that will make him feel as valued as he wants to feel, him and his camp. And, you know, if the kid himself has this hankering for Barcelona and they can make that work, maybe he would be very, very attracted by that. An awful lot of people just made this assumption that he would simply go to Saudi Arabia. And I don't think that should be an automatic assumption that anyone makes. There are two types of people go to Saudi Arabia: people who are pretty much, you know, chasing the bag, and people who are pretty much at the tail end and looking for one last hit, one last job. And he may not be either of those, if we're being perfectly honest. So it's going to be interesting in terms of Darwin as well, just to finish on this sequence with Darwin. I mean, again, looking like an absolute lottery winner, running around on the pitch last night, just completely out of it. I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry for Harvey Elliott. I felt like he was really exposed in that sort of 10 role he was playing. He was chasing around. He couldn't make any tackles. He was, when we were not in possession, he was very, very little addition to us. And that's going to be an issue for Harvey and his Liverpool future. Darwin's Liverpool future does not exist. So are we any closer to knowing where he may land?
No, in simple terms, he kind of, like you say, he looks like a foundation event winner, doesn't he? Realistically, he's not trying a leg at all, Darwin. And everyone knows what's going to happen, don't they? Realistically, it's all just about, can we use him, and where does he end up? If we can't use him for one striker and we can't use him for another, we will probably just try and get the biggest Saudi bag possible, won't they? Because they're ready. They've got a certain tournament they're all geared up for. So that's probably where the smart money is right now.
Now, there is one potential exit that nobody will have seen coming unless they're following the news today. And it's going to be a real worry for those fans who are hailing his return as some sort of messianic arrival, because Big Mick Edwards is being linked with, guess where? The Saudi bag. Talk to us about this, because I think this is throwing people for a loop. However real it is, or however real his interest might be in it, I think it has. People are in high anxiety about it.
Rumour has it that Dr. Phil Bartz has had 9 puffs on his angina spray, puffed his spirit levels 8 times just to try and calm down today with this latest development. So how many times so far on this show have we said, with the Saudi negotiations and that relationship with the club, that Michael Edwards was all over that? We've said numerous times he's the one sorting sales and sorting the Saudi relationship. What I didn't realise is he was using it to publish his CV and get that updated and possibly look at a job for the future as well. And it is important to say, as this story is, that it's potential for the future, that he's happy at FSG now. But this is also, if we're cynical, a clever little story, isn't it? Because FSG will know that Michael Edwards is over the Saudi stuff. FSG will know they haven't delivered the multi-club, which is what he came back for, as he said in his speech, and having that proposition. FSG will also be looking at that and going, well, Al Hilal would just give Michael Edwards the keys to the kingdom, wouldn't they? And say, like, there's an unlimited checkbook, just off you go and make us look good type of thing as well. So there could be that in it at the same time. But let's just hope, Trev, from a good movie quote, he is the Messiah and he's not a very naughty boy. Put it that way.
I just the amount of people who will be so heartbroken and who are so invested in him and the potential he has to impact Liverpool's immediate future. They will just not be enjoying this story at all. As you say, it could be a very cynical little thing that's being floated out there, or him just publicly exploring his options. And to bring it around full circle, we just mentioned Darwin Núñez. There are loads of people defending him in the chats, and maybe you're new to the channel, but very few people as fond of Darwin Núñez as me and you in the years when he was trying to do the things and not doing them. We had this beautiful story being rolled out there. It was a Sam Maguire exclusive, I believe, where there was a potential for an exchange deal with some inventive money being exchanged as well, where Liverpool could perhaps think about getting Julian Alvarez to the Premier League playing for them, and Darwin Núñez would go the other way. And again, I'm seeing loads of people saying Núñez would do great in La Liga, and perhaps he would. But it looks like, in the words of, was it the Atletico chief exec, president, something like that, he's pretty much put the kibosh on it, hasn't he?
Yeah, when I looked at this photo earlier, it's like, I've never known what Joan Laporta, the Barcelona president's family, looks like, but he kind of looks like his dad, Atletico president Cerezo. And I like this quote because it's not true, so it's kind of funny. He says, Julian Alvarez is a player of Atletico Madrid. That's true. He's very happy here. Possibly. He is our player. True. And he will remain our player. Possibly. He was raised at Atletico Madrid. I don't think Madrid's in Argentina. And he will die at Atletico Madrid. So maybe they're planning to embalm him with his next contract renewal, like a mummy and a sarcophagus. I don't really know, possibly. But why would the club, who has like Diego Simeone in charge for a record time, be anything but crazy in the way they say things? So, like it or not, although, again, when you hear comments like this, it also makes you think, okay, that might be a little bit of nonsense. He was raised at Atletico Madrid and he will die at Atletico Madrid. Like, I do love a good president, club owner comment. They do make our summer.
Oh, yeah, he sounds like a lunatic, if we're being honest. Right, now we've done 43 minutes on the Reds, which means we have a lot to cram in here, Dave. We'll do them headline style. Premier League first, and Aston Villa are looking at cashing in on Martinez, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that happening, and perhaps also Leon Bailey.
Yeah, we said it a couple of weeks ago, don't we? Villa, PSR, looking to balance the books, and all of a sudden, Emi Martinez is crying at Aston Villa, not because he's shit compared to Alisson, but I think, as a lot of people suspect, he will be sacrificed, be it Atletico have been linked, but Saudi does seem the most likely destination. We said how they wanted a keeper. Also the same for Leon Bailey and getting a huge wage influx there. Linked with Juan Garcia, that keeper at Espanyol, who was linked with Arsenal as his replacement. But I think a lot of people are expecting Bailey and Emi Martinez to depart Villa this summer.
Now, Arsenal news that is making me slightly nauseous. I have a real feeling that Gyökeres could be an absolute beast for Liverpool. I genuinely do. And we already know that they've got a fellow we were chasing last season. Our pal Medinant's pretty much done. Zubimendi's almost over the line as a deal. But it looks like they're aiming their sights at Gyökeres as well. I don't like that. That does not sound good to me, that they could have someone like Gyökeres and Zubimendi added to the ranks. And it looks like they're going to back Arteta at least once more.
They're all in on this. Make no mistake. There's no rationale of like, hold on, this guy keeps finishing second and we're going backwards and we've given him like 800 million quid over the years he's here. They are all in with Arteta. Josh Kroenke saying, like, big summer, we're expecting it, we're behind him, we're going to do things. Arteta even saying it, isn't he, that it is going to be a big summer. We know what we want. We're going to get it done. This chief exec's come in, whose record is patchy, but they're heralding him as the new messiah. And if he gets Gyökeres, Zubimendi and a winger, he probably will be heralded that way as well, won't they? But they talk nonsense. However, I do suspect Arsenal are going to spend again big this summer.
People need to get their heads around that, because with all the sneering at Arteta, it doesn't seem to matter what anyone else thinks at the club. He is liked, and the owners seem to be very interested in backing him. So get yourself used to the fact that they're going to strengthen. Some free transfers knocking about now. Doucouré, Harry Wilson. Talk to us about these deals.
Did we say 2 weeks ago Doucouré is wanted by the Saudis, and all of a sudden the Everton wages are not going to cut it? And what's happened? He does the crying video. He says, it's been a pleasure. He confirms today, I'm leaving on a free. So he is going to depart. And then Harry Wilson, we mentioned him, that he's been triggered that, or the club, sorry, Fulham have triggered that renewal. But Harry Wilson's told Fulham he doesn't want it. Harry Wilson isn't in Marco Silva's team most of this season. So he's also looking to move on. So there'd even been talk of, would they cancel that final year, or would they take a small fee for him? But you are getting a lot of players now leaving on frees, aren't you? And a lot of these are coming up. So add Doucouré, possibly add Harry Wilson to the mix, and they'll just keep coming.
Other clubs who are chasing those Champions League places, Villa, Newcastle, also seem to have a fondness for Jonathan David, who we were linked with 11 moons ago. Napoli are also interested in this player. Who do you see coming out the winner in that particular race?
If it comes down to wages, and Newcastle and Villa are in the Champions League, you'd think, you never know, but that would get done. And it's hard at any of those clubs, because if you go into Newcastle, you're probably going to be Isak's backup. If you go into Napoli, you're going to be Lukaku's backup, aren't you? Maybe Villa, there's question marks around Ollie Watkins, but Jonathan David on a free is good business for a lot of clubs, isn't he, really? So he will go to a Champions League club. He will have his pick. I do think it will be the Premier League, though.
We've got a Brighton story, and then we're going to go to the two Manchester clubs to finish up the Premier League. So I'm just going to let you take those whatever way you want to, in as much detail as you want to, starting with Brighton.
Yeah, people might not remember the name Costa Lewis, but destroyed Scotland, didn't he? The young 17-year-old Greek international. And where do 17-year-old young Greek strikers end up? At Brighton, because Brighton buy those types of players, don't they? So a deal involving 30 million and Seema going the other way. And people forget, Brighton stockpile these young attackers, don't they? Like the way they bought Gruder, Minter and a few others and let others go on loan. Don't forget. Do you remember right at the start of the summer, Trev, a name we'd forgot? Stefanos Zimas. Do you remember that? When we were trying to get him as well, and Brighton got him. So there's potential for two Greek attackers to be coming into Brighton. But it's just what Brighton do, isn't it? They always have about 8 or 9 attackers. Some just end up on loan, some end up developed, some then get sold. It's just the Brighton model.
Yeah, and look at some of those guys last night. I mean, they've got so many good young players. They do it so well. It's only when you actually see them play, or when the Reds are playing against them in particular, you get to watch them really closely. They just have this down. It's such a well-run club. And we finished, like I said, with the Manchester clubs. A bit's going on with both. United seem to be the more likely to do business at the moment, with one deal almost done.
Yeah, Matthias Cunha, it's been brewing for a while. It's all just about how the release clause is going to be paid, whether it's installments, whether United have actually got the money after Wednesday night is probably a question. So we won't have long to wait to find that out. But also, as various press outlets have reported it, United execs have held talks with another one we mentioned, Liam Delap. So he's got that option there at the same time. United are trying to get strikers, plural, through the door. And I mean, City is a bit of a madness as well. De Bruyne, remember after the FA Cup final, all the City fans were sulking. He was in a great mood. He was smiling and cheering. And then he gives an interview afterwards to say, yeah, we want to stay in the Northwest. My family's all settled here. So again, a quite clear, come and get me Liverpool. So that story will rumble on until he gets somewhere. And City. The funniest one was the Wirtz stuff. Remember City pulled out the Wirtz race in a kind of like, we never wanted him anyway. It wasn't really serious. The money's ridiculous. Like a club said, oh, no one should be paying a package of 300 million. This from a club that paid 100 million quid for Jack Grealish. This from a club that paid a similar package to Gvardiol and Red Bull. Like, come on, lads. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's at least try and make it look genuine. But Gibbs White, as we said, Wharton, like us, Reinders as well. There's going to be a lot happening in Manchester this summer.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it'll be interesting to watch. Hopefully, neither of them will be particularly successful in their recruitment. And there is a name that's just gotten thrown into the chat, and I noticed it was in the headline for the show, which isn't always myself or yourself. It's just whatever story was or information was sent. Is there anything about Sesko? Let's just talk about that just before we move into Europe-wide stuff.
He's been watched many a times. I think people know that. He is liked. I know a lot of people know that as well. However, he isn't the first choice. He's certainly not my first choice. And the big problem is, I think we said it before with Sesko, maybe we've just got Nunes PTSD, because a big, tall, rangy striker who's raw, quick, just makes you nervous, but very unpolished, doesn't it? And I think we're all just thinking like, come on, we're champions. Should we be going for another project forward, especially when we're moving for the likes of, or try for the likes of Alvarez, trying for the likes of Wirtz. Sesko's just so many steps below that. It doesn't make him a bad player, but it's going to be underwhelming if he's the project forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, people have different opinions and maybe they've seen more of them, and that's all fair enough too. Let's wrap it up with the Europe and a look around. Carreras is someone who I know an awful lot of football watchers of a Reds variety were very, very into, but it looks like Real have got their greasy paws on him.
Yeah, we wanted him, didn't we? Said all summer he would be our dream left back, and he is Spanish, so where do most Spanish players want to end up? At one of their big two. So yeah, it's all just a case of, can Real Madrid agree a deal with Benfica that satisfies both parties? Benfica are a selling club. Real Madrid want him. Carreras wants to go there. So it's never guaranteed, but it does feel like this one will get done.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It seems like it seems right. Something about that move just seems right. Barca, you mentioned earlier on, and they have some players there on their books that they need to get sorted contract-wise. De Jong is one, Yamal is one, Inacio is another, and Rafinha is another. There's only so much cash that comes in for winning the league. And we know that some people think they're going to spend up to 70 million of it on Luis Diaz, if you believe that story. So what do you reckon are their priorities there around the contract situation?
The De Jong one fascinates me because he's only got a year left on his deal. But we've mentioned this like historically in the transfer show and checked it again to get it verified. They still owe him about 6 months' wages, Trev. Remember, Barca had their major problems and they still owe this guy about 6 months' wages. What worries me is, I don't know why players do this, but how many players have Barca got to just write off wages? Do you remember they got like PK playing for like £10 an hour or something like that? Players just do this for Barcelona. It's utterly bizarre, but it wouldn't surprise you if it's a happy camp and he just writes off millions of quid. But there you go. As you said, Yamal, Barca's biggest worry is Yamal turns 18. So now they've actually got to offer him an adult wage instead of like Kit Kats and Kinder Buenos to play for type of thing. So that comes into the mix. Rafinha wants a new deal as well. So yeah, it is the one that we've just mentioned here, because for all the talk over Luis Diaz and 70 million quid, how about the backdated arrears on wages to pay and sort? So, yeah, this will be one to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, and they're going to obviously make moves and pull levers. So, yeah, you're right. It'll be one to watch. Let's talk about two more players before we finish with a chat about some managerial moves. First of all is Cherki, who is another sort of Javi Simmons, seems to really divide opinion. Some people are massively high on this kid, others not so much. And then Vlahovic as well, who is kind of constantly in every transfer window news every time that we do a show. Let's talk about him before we'll get to the managers. But first of all, Cherki, then Vlahovic.
Yeah, players with a year left to go who divide a lot of people, don't we? That it's known. Leon have confirmed it. The players confirmed it. Cherki's moving on. It's all about who is prepared to stump up the fee. And again, we said this before, but for about 18.5 million in elite football terms, that is not big money. There'll be a lot of clubs that will look at that as an educated punt, shall we say, and think he's a bit lazy in all this, but he's got creative elements, so we'll take the gamble on that. So I do think he will get a move. It wouldn't surprise you if it's to the Premier League as well, but Dortmund again being mentioned. And the other one, I mean, Dusan Vlahovic, what if you went back a couple of years, he was heralded as potentially the next big striking star, wasn't he? He was going to be like the big, the next £100 million striker, if you want to call it that. But he's really gone tits up at Juventus, hasn't it? And they're quite happy to part ways with a year left to go on his deal. So Arsenal have been linked. There's a few others. The only other one to mention with Vlahovic, our good old friends, the Saudis, are apparently sniffing around him. So he's not old, but he's not young particularly at the same time. It will be interesting to see. And someone commented he is on a massive wage at Juventus, so someone's got to be prepared to take that on at the same time. It sniffs of Saudi money, doesn't it?
Really does, because if he's gotten used to that and that is his priority, and honestly, I would never blame a man for wanting to stay on the same money and not go down. Then there are very few options available to the kid. Let's finish then the show with some managerial potential moves, including the much beloved Ten Hag.
Yeah, Eric Ten Hag. I mean, he is apparently still, as it says on the screen there, on Bayer Leverkusen's list, but Leverkusen want Cesc Fabregas. The problem is Cesc is on such a sweet deal at Como. Beautiful part of the world, total control, ambitious owners who want to do things. It's like he's almost just allowed to do it how he wants. So you're not going to give that up too easily. What's also funny as well is it could come full circle that having been sacked by United, Ajax have got rid of their manager after they bottled the league, didn't they, on the last day after a massive, massive points advantage they gave up. So who's one of the favourites now with the bookies to go back there? Eric Ten Hag. So imagine that. He just spends 3 years, gets a massive payoff from Manchester United and just goes back to his old job. But there's a lot going on with managers. I mean, it was still funny. People that had that whole Jurgen Klopp's going to manage Roma. Jurgen Klopp said for a year he's not going to do anything in terms of management. He probably won't go back again. But there's a lot going on in the managerial scene. It will be interesting. And I see someone put Farioli, or however it's pronounced, quit. It was this a mutual agreement, wasn't it? After you blow the league with 10 points left to go, of course you're going to leave Ajax. So, yeah, we will see what happens with this.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes these manager stories are every bit as entertaining. And I did see some stuff with Fabregas interviews, a couple of different interviews recently. Just listen to him talk about the game. He does have that. He's a real football man, and he has very strong pronounced ideas. You can see how he could end up being one of the few footballer to manager transitions that ends up being really excellent. If those early signs are anything to go by. That's pretty much us, Dave, unless you've got a last-minute addition or something that's come in during the show or something that occurred to you that you want to drop just before we get out of here.
No, it's just, I suppose we said last week, and I got it wrong. We'll probably do another one. Maybe there won't be too much to talk about. Not much has happened between Friday and Tuesday. Everything's just a little bit crazy. And obviously, this week, there's the end of the season. So it'll only be 5 days after the end of the season till transfer window 1 opens again. We are we're 12 days away from the transfer window opening. We're awaiting news on Frimpong, Kerkez, Wirtz. We're waiting to see what happens as well, aren't we? There's already things happening with us before the window has even opened, departure-wise as well, with the likes of Elliott, Diaz, Nunes. One thing between now and the end of transfer window 1, it ain't going to be quiet. There's going to be plenty going on.
And honestly, folks, that's how we like it on this show. It's all just about the stories. And that ultimately is the purpose of this show. They're good, they're bad, they're worrying, they're exciting. We're giddy, we're anxious. That's what the show is. And we just tell you what it is that Dave's found from his sources. So we look forward to doing it again soon. Like Dave says, probably won't even be a week the way things are going. We'll be back with you when there's enough for a show. So for now, take care.